Oh, dang. +5? Ooh, everything went up. Bro, are you gonna sanctify it? No? Is that not good? Everything went up. Is that everything? Oh, look at that.
Why is his thing frozen?
Bro, did you hit everything positive on the sanctify? That was a clip of my buddy sanctifying this insane scepter. Big shout out to the homie Joshin for showing me, you know, the tips of how he goes about like making these scepters and stuff. He's made 2 of them. So in that clip, he actually was super excited. He got to the point of sanctification. It was on his second, it was 1 sanctify per each one. The first one was a dud, right? He didn't sanctify it. The second one almost boosted everything, which is pretty insane, right? Double exceptional, double socketed base, increased spirit T1, hybrid T1, increased maximum damage from 119 to 131, increased maximum life, small bit, right? 50 to 54, +5, and then a little bit of increased attack speed. So I'm gonna go over like how he crafted this, because I always wondered how are these scepters made? You know, how hard is it? How much actual currency it takes? And it's an insane amount, right? He told me once you have the suffixes locked, the prefixes can average from like 400 to like 800 whittles. So it's pretty insane. The price ranges are out there. You know, this is just one of the ways to do it. So I'm gonna go over it and then talk about what I'm doing with my scepter. Now I'm by no means right of an expert. I'm just kind of like, I kind of have a rough grasp and an idea of how you're supposed to like go about your crafting. This is the first time I've actually used eye levels in order to block certain areas, and then using whittles to just target the ones that you need. So what exactly am I talking about? Specifically for scepters, what you can do is you can finish all your prefixes, and as long as their prefixes eye level of 76 or higher, you can whittle spam all the prefixes using greater chaos orbs. And over a certain point of time, if you hit T1 spirit, T1 physical attack damage, and T1 hybrid, those are all eye levels that are higher than 76. And then any other mod is lower than eye level 76. So all of your suffixes that are at 76 or higher are effectively acting like a perfect chaos orb or a perfect exalted orb, right? And they're excluding all these other mods on the prefixes that are lower than that eye level point. I know it's super confusing, kind of hard to understand. I'll do my best to kind of go through it. Let me pull up the PoE2DB. So here's the PoE2DB for scepters. It's kind of hard to see. Let's blow it up. Here it is, right? So you see these eye levels. 78, right? These are the eye levels. And what happens is, if you get all of your suffixes higher than eye level 76, and then you look over here, there's only 3 mods that are higher, right? Or there's only 3 that you care about getting. There's this one, right? If you get increased physical damage, it's 82. If you whittle that prefix is safe. It'll never get touched again by a whittle. If you hit spirit, T1, it's eye level 82, right? The highest one. That'll also be safe, and it'll no longer get touched. Just the weightings are kind of low, right? Or they're a little better than these ones. And then there's increased mana and spirit. It's eye level 70, which doesn't matter, right? Because if you hit any of these other ones, 75, 70, whatever, as long as your suffixes are at 76 or higher, your whittle will always target these guys. And as long as you're just looking for these 2. Once you get these, they'll stop getting targeted, and you'll effectively just deterministically eventually arrive at getting these prefixes. So this is how you do it with the whittle slam. Now, how do you lock your suffixes, right? So ideally you get your base, and then you just basically chaos spam that first mod. And the mods you're looking for with your chaos spam, spirit, right? If you get spirit, hold your horses. Then it becomes a desecration of the prefix and trying to homogenize an omen of lighting and just leaving all that stuff and working on the spirit, working on the suffixes that way and keeping that T1, right? Because it's super valuable if you get that. Or if you get increased, presence damage 82, you get one of those 2, all stop, right? If you get maximum mana, it's kind of rough because you're gonna have to whittle spam, and this is gonna go away. And then the other thing too is if you get T4 of all minion skills during your chaosing on your initial base, if you get your +4 minion skill levels, perfect. You're gonna homogenize straight into you know, life or some other eye level 76 plus that you kind of want, right? The thing is, if you're playing off tags, well, actually no, sorry about that. If you get minion level of skills, never mind, backtrack. Yeah, you can get minion increased life. Then if you get T1 life, you're at level 80. And then once you're at level 80, once you get these two, that's when you'll add in a desecration of eye level 76. If it's still super confusing, hang on. Right? If you don't get plus level of all minion skills during that first initial mod, the one you're actually looking for is T1 life. You want T1 life as much as possible, because once you get T1 life, you can use this minion mod to try to homogenize minion life. What'll happen though is you'll also have a chance of homogenizing presence of life generation per second. But once you have these two mods, the only mod left with those two tags to homogenize is your level of all minion skills. Now, if you don't already know that, that's how it works. So let me talk about what my plans are, or how I'm actually approaching my current scepter. So here's my current scepter, right? What I did was I bought Fractured Spirit on here, T4 or T1, and now that I'm going through it, yeah, I paid like, I think 15 divines for this, between 15 and 20 divines to try to get this T4 Fractured Spirit. If you're trying to do like some crazy big mirror sanctification thing later on, you probably don't want any fractures. But, you know, for everyday use for normal people, this is like perfectly acceptable. And then from here, my plan is to get both life mods, because I'm prepping for T4 Slam, for homogenization for with a perfect exalt to get T4, right? So this is what I'm doing in this current step. That's why you'll see I have both increase maximum life and presence of or regenerate life per second. So what I did was, with this fracture, all I did was roll chaos orbs until I hit, like I was saying, I was looking for a max life. Once I got max life, I homogenized into life regen with a greater exalted orb. Nothing too crazy. Ideally though, when you're doing this, you want to aim for T1 life, so that way you don't have to get T1 life later on down here and then waste a bunch of currency and stuff. So ideally getting T1 life right away is your best play. And then what you want to do is, when you homogenize, is just use, actually don't even use a greater chaos or a greater exalt, just use a normal exalted orb, because you want a low life roll for regeneration, so that way you can whittle this into the prefix to remove later. That's what you want to do. So now that you've prepped for +4, what you're gonna do is you're gonna homogenize and try to hit your +4 minion of all minion skills, which is what I did over here. I hit +4. Now I know you're asking, where is the maximum life? I actually whittled the maximum life off to the prefix, and then I annulled it away. So you see how that's already eating up currency, right? If I started with T1 life, I would have saved that sinestral annulment. I wouldn't have to whittle it to the prefix and remove it. And then I had to do the same thing with this allies regenerate presence life of this modifier. In reality, the better play could have been to try to desecrate allies regenerate T1 life, which is what I have here. I have this desecration right here. So ideally, if you could desecrate that in here and get a T1 life actual mod, then you're free to try your +4 minion all skills homogenization with a perfect exalt. The problem is if you roll T4 minions. If you roll T4 minions, I mean, not all is lost. If you roll T4 minions, you could easily remove that mod by whittling it into the prefixes. You whittle it into the prefixes and you protect your T1. You protect your T1 mod. You keep your T1 mod here, you whittle that over to the prefix, and then you annul it off, and then you re-roll with another homogenization and a perfect exalted orb to try to hit T4 again. And then once you do finally hit T4, your suffixes will be kind of done. This is what you kind of want right here. Now your suffixes are pretty much locked, right? You have your life desecration mod because you wanted the life tag result out of the way from your homogenization. You have your maximum minion life mod also right here out of the way because you're trying to get your +4 minion all skills mod. And you're pretty much ready to prefix slam at this point. Although I will say, if you look up the eye level for these, the desecration of regenerate life, it's only eye level 75. Right, it's only eye level 75. And that'll only get you into trouble if you roll one of these guys. If you roll one of these guys, T1 attack mods, it's the same eye level 75 as the life regen. So when you do start whittle slamming prefixes, if you have T1 attack, it'll put your desecration in danger, which you don't want. So this is my current scepter of what I have. I actually rolled a bad mod. I got T1 mana, and T1 mana, the eye level of that is actually above. Actually, no, never mind. T1 mana is 70, so it was fine. You're fine to just keep re-rolling with T1 mana. As long as it's not higher than 75, it'll always get targeted with a whittle. So as long as you don't have one of these guys, that desecration is perfectly acceptable of pure life. So I'm at this point now where all I'm doing is slamming omens of whittling and greater chaos orbs. You could use perfect chaos orbs, but it is not as efficient in your currency usage, right? Because if you roll anything else, you roll something like, you know, that's higher than, if you're using this eye level 75, you roll like a elemental attack mod, then your suffix block is in danger if it's not eye level 76 or higher. So it really depends on you. Just using, and whittles right now are about 2 divines, so it's 2 divines plus 1 greater chaos per attempt. So ideally what I'm trying to hope for is I just want some type of T2 hybrid spirit. If I get T2 hybrid spirit with this T1 spirit, that's pretty good. I'll probably put in attack speed as a desecration, and then I'll use this scepter as an upgrade. So yeah, I know that's kind of confusing, kind of watch it through, look it over, but this is how one of these scepters are made. So yeah, again, big shout out to Joshin for, you know, giving me all the details, showing me all that stuff. And yeah, catch you guys on the next one. Peace out. Bye.